Why is the UK economy falling apart? How did a once powerful nation end up looking like it's headed toward third world status? And why do Keir Starmer's policies seem to be speeding up this decline rather than fixing it? Welcome to Breakpoint. Under Keir Starmer's government, the country has gone from bad to worse, with a crumbling middle class, an overwhelmed healthcare system, and an out-of-control immigration policy. The UK, once a proud and powerful nation, is now teetering on the edge of third world status. Starmer promised to change course, but instead he has put his foot on the accelerator, driving the country straight towards disaster. It is time for the UK to wake up and realize that you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. The problems facing the UK are real, and they won't be solved by empty promises and failed policies. Stay tuned to unravel how we got here and why things are spiraling out of control. You certainly don't need to be an economist or a politician to know that the backbone of any stable economy is its middle class. They're the ones buying houses, cars, and consumer goods, contributing to both production and consumption. But in this country, the middle class is disintegrating faster than snow melts in April. This was not a sudden collapse, but a gradual decline accelerated by the very government that promised to protect them. Starmer's government has not only failed to support the middle class, but also helped accelerate their downfall with misguided policies. It is not out of place to say he bit off more than he could chew when it comes to the promises he made to the people. But perhaps what is hurting the economy more is the UK's deindustrialisation. It is not rocket science to know that deindustrialisation is one of the root causes of a dwindling economy. I mean, this is a simple lecture the Labour government could have taken from Poland or Argentina, but they didn't, and the consequences are what we are facing now. The UK, once a global leader in manufacturing and innovation, is now becoming the first country to deindustrialise. In the post-war period, Britain's factories, plants and industrial sectors were booming. But now factories are shutting their doors, and industries that once provided jobs to millions are vanishing, leaving a trail of unemployment and desolation. The middle class, which once thrived on industrial jobs, is now left scraping the barrel, with nothing to show for decades of hard work. Under Starmer's government, investing in the country has become scarce. Money that should be spent on rebuilding the economy, encouraging entrepreneurship, or reviving industries is being funneled into other areas that provide little or no return. His focus on inclusivity and permissiveness often feels more like he lacks the basic economic principle of scale of preference. He has chosen to prioritize issues that don't directly stimulate the economy while ignoring the fundamental problems. Meanwhile, shops and businesses are shutting down in droves. Just take a stroll through your local high street and you'll see more boarded up windows than open doors. It goes without saying that one of the most significant failures of Starmer's government is its immigration policy. Starmer, eager to gain the Muslim community's vote, made a slew of promises, and now he's paying the piper. Although immigration in itself is not a problem, the lack of control and foresight in managing it certainly is. Starmer has opened the borders without proper screening for skills or criminal backgrounds. In doing so, he has also let the foxes into the henhouse. This uncontrolled influx of people has led to a decline in job quality, an oversaturation of low-skilled workers, and a rise in unemployment and insecurity. Wages are stagnating, with businesses opting to pay the bare minimum for labour, knowing fully well there is always another low-skilled worker ready to take the job. The supply is there, no doubt, but the demand for better quality jobs is certainly not. They say too many cooks spoil the broth, and right now the UK's workforce is overcrowded with low-skilled labourers, which in turn depresses wages for everyone. It's a vicious cycle that Starmer seems unwilling or unable to break. Instead of closing the floodgates or at least regulating the flow, he is pouring oil on troubled waters, and it's not helping. In fact, it's making things worse. Moreover, Starmer's policies have made it difficult to address the criticisms and concerns that arise from such permissive immigration. There are rising tensions and clashes, often swept under the rug to avoid political fallout. Critics of the open-door policy face repression and censorship, a stark contrast to the permissiveness towards the very policies that are undermining the workforce and contributing to the crumbling economy. But the straw that is currently breaking the camel's back is the housing crisis. Housing in the UK has become a nightmare for anyone who is not already wealthy. With the influx of immigrants, many of whom require government assistance, the demand for affordable housing has skyrocketed. But you cannot get blood from a stone. The housing supply simply cannot keep up with the demand, leading to overcrowding, inflated prices, and homelessness. Starmer's government has done little to address the root of the housing crisis. Instead, they continue to allow more people into the country without considering the consequences. The result is what we are experiencing now. A housing market that is out of reach for the average British citizen, and a rental market where landlords can charge astronomical prices because they know people have nowhere else to go. The situation is so dire that many are starting to wonder if owning a home will soon become a pipe dream for the majority. If there's one thing that truly exemplifies the UK's descent into third world status, it is the state of its healthcare system. The NHS, once a pride of the nation, is now on life support. Overwhelmed with patients, many of them immigrants who require urgent care, the system is buckling under the pressure. There simply aren't enough resources to go around. Doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers are stretched to the breaking point, trying to provide care for a growing population without the necessary infrastructure or support. Starmer's policies have only worsened this problem by failing to regulate immigration and allocate healthcare resources effectively. Robbing Peter to pay Paul has become the government's method of operation, with funds being moved from one department to another. But it's not enough to fix the core issues. In a country that should be looking after its most vulnerable, the elderly are being left out in the cold. With an overwhelmed healthcare system and skyrocketing housing costs, many elderly people are falling through the cracks. Care homes are struggling to cope, and families are forced to make difficult decisions about how to care for their aging relatives. Starmer's government has done very little to address this crisis, focusing instead on policies that cater to immigrants, in the process leaving the elderly to fend for themselves. The reality is that the UK is becoming a country where it's every man for himself, and those who are not able to keep up are being left behind. The squeaky wheel, they say, always gets the grease. However, not in this case, because here in the UK, the wheel is broken, and Starmer's government doesn't seem to have a plan to fix it. Nonetheless, we need to cut some slack for Starmer's government. Even though his policies are contributing to the declining economy, we still cannot really blame it all on him, to be fair. There are some events that also significantly contribute to this collapse. To put it into perspective, two significant factors have played a major role in pushing the UK towards this economic crisis: the 2008 financial crisis and Brexit. The 2008 financial crisis sent shockwaves across the globe, and the UK was no exception. Banks collapsed, unemployment rose, and the economy took a nosedive. Though many countries have since recovered, our country has been slow to bounce back, largely due to poor economic management and a lack of investment in key industries. Starmer's government has done little to address the lingering effects of the crisis, choosing instead to focus on short-term fixes rather than long-term solutions. Brexit was another major blow to our economy. Although leaving the European Union was supposed to give the country more control over its borders and economy, it has instead created more problems than it solved. Trade deals have become more complicated, businesses have left the country, and the UK is now more isolated than ever. Brexit was supposed to be a solution, but it has only made things worse. At the end of the day, the UK's economic decline is a result of a series of poor decisions and failed policies. The country needs a leader who is willing to make tough decisions and prioritise the needs of its citizens over political games and short-term gains. Because right now, Starmer's actions are speaking volumes about his inability to steer the country away from this economic catastrophe. Like and share this video to spread the awareness. If you haven't already, subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on our future content. Thank you for your support.